Hello and welcome. Let's play. 51 awesome questions ready. Which animal lives in a burrow underground? Rabbit, duck, zebra. The correct answer is rabbit. Here's an interesting fact: rabbits dig burrows to live and stay safe from predators. What do you wear to protect your eyes from the sun? Sunglasses, helmet, gloves. The correct answer is sunglasses. Here's an interesting fact: sunglasses protect your eyes from bright sunlight. What animal can change color to hide? Chameleon, horse, elephant. The correct answer is chameleon. Here's an interesting fact: chameleons change color to blend in with their surroundings. What do you use to tell the time? Clock, radio, window. The correct answer is clock. Here's an interesting fact: a clock helps you see the current time of day. What fruit has a crown and is yellow inside? Pineapple, apple, peach. The correct answer is pineapple. Here's an interesting fact: pineapples have a spiky top and sweet yellow fruit inside. What is the smallest number? 0, 1, 10. The correct answer is 0. Here's an interesting fact: 0 means nothing or none and is the smallest number. What do we call a flying fire truck? Helicopter, airplane, boat. The correct answer is helicopter. Here's an interesting fact: helicopters are used in emergencies like fires and rescues. What shape has 6 sides? Hexagon, square, pentagon. The correct answer is hexagon. Here's an interesting fact: a hexagon is a shape with 6 sides and 6 corners. What is the name of the red fruit with tiny black seeds on the outside? Strawberry, cherry, lemon. The correct answer is strawberry. Here's an interesting fact: strawberries are red and have seeds on the outside. What makes a rainbow appear? Rain and sunshine, snow and wind, thunder. The correct answer is rain and sunshine. Here's an interesting fact: rainbows form when sunlight shines through raindrops. What is a group of stars in the sky called? Constellation. Planet. Rocket. The correct answer is constellation. Here's an interesting fact. A constellation is a group of stars that form a pattern. What part of the plant grows underground? Roots. Leaves. Flowers. The correct answer is roots. Here's an interesting fact. Roots grow below the soil and absorb water and nutrients. What animal has black and white stripes? Zebra. Tiger. Panda. The correct answer is zebra. Here's an interesting fact. Zebras have black and white stripes to help them hide in tall grass. What do we call an animal that lays eggs and swims? Duck. Dog. Horse. The correct answer is duck. Here's an interesting fact. Ducks are birds that swim and lay eggs. What fruit is green on the outside and red inside with black seeds? Watermelon. Kiwi. Grapes. The correct answer is watermelon. Here's an interesting fact. Watermelons are large fruits with juicy red flesh and black seeds. What season comes after autumn? Winter. Spring. Summer. The correct answer is winter. Here's an interesting fact. Winter follows autumn and is the coldest season. What tool do we use to measure time? Clock. Hammer. Scissors. The correct answer is clock. Here's an interesting fact. Clocks help tell us what time it is. What do people wear on their heads when riding a bike? Helmet. Hat. Goggles. The correct answer is helmet. Here's an interesting fact. Helmets protect your head when riding a bicycle. What do we call a young frog? Tadpole. Chick. Puppy. The correct answer is tadpole. Here's an interesting fact. A tadpole is the baby stage of a frog before it grows legs. What gas do we breathe in to live? Oxygen. Helium. Carbon dioxide. The correct answer is oxygen. Here's an interesting fact. Oxygen is the air we need to breathe and stay alive. What is the name of the book that tells us stories? Storybook. Phone book. Cookbook. The correct answer is storybook. Here's an interesting fact. Storybooks contain fun and exciting tales for children. What part of your body do you use to hold things? Hands, legs, ears. The correct answer is hands. Here's an interesting fact. We use our hands to grab, hold, and carry things. What do you get when you mix blue and yellow? Green, red, purple. The correct answer is green. Here's an interesting fact. Blue and yellow make green when mixed together. What kind of animal is a shark? Fish, bird, insect. The correct answer is fish. Here's an interesting fact. Sharks are large fish that live in oceans. What do you use to draw straight lines? Ruler, spoon, crayon. The correct answer is ruler. Here's an interesting fact. A ruler helps draw straight lines and measure length. What food is made from milk and is yellow or white? Cheese, bread, egg. The correct answer is cheese. Here's an interesting fact. Cheese is made by processing milk. What lives in a hive and makes buzzing sounds? Bee, ant, butterfly. The correct answer is bee. Here's an interesting fact. Bees live in hives and make honey while buzzing. What is a baby horse called? Foal, calf, lamb. The correct answer is foal. Here's an interesting fact. A baby horse is called a foal. What color is the moon in the night sky? White, orange, green. The correct answer is white. Here's an interesting fact. The moon usually appears white or silver at night. What kind of tree gives us coconuts? Palm tree, apple tree, pine tree. The correct answer is palm tree. Here's an interesting fact. Palm trees grow in tropical places and produce coconuts. What season has blooming flowers and green grass? Spring, winter, autumn. The correct answer is spring. Here's an interesting fact. Spring is when new flowers and green plants start to grow. What do we call someone who flies an airplane? Pilot, driver, Captain. The correct answer is pilot. Here's an interesting fact. A pilot is trained to fly and control airplanes. What happens when ice melts? It becomes water. It becomes dust. It flies away. The correct answer is, it becomes water. Here's an interesting fact. Ice turns back into water when it melts. What animal swims with a shell on its back? Turtle. Horse. Sheep. The correct answer is turtle. Here's an interesting fact. Turtles swim in water and carry their shells for protection. What do we call it when the sun disappears for the day? Sunset. Sunrise. Storm. The correct answer is sunset. Here's an interesting fact. Sunset is when the sun goes down and night begins. What color are flamingos? Pink. Black. Blue. The correct answer is pink. Here's an interesting fact. Flamingos are pink because of the food they eat. What is the name of the person who delivers mail? Postman. Doctor. Baker. The correct answer is postman. Here's an interesting fact. A postman delivers letters and packages. What do we call it when leaves fall off trees? Autumn. Spring. Summer. The correct answer is autumn. Here's an interesting fact. Autumn is the season when trees shed their leaves. What animal has a hump and lives in the desert? Camel. Zebra. Elephant. The correct answer is camel. Here's an interesting fact. Camels use their humps to store fat and survive the desert. What color do you get when you mix red and blue? Purple. Orange. Green. The correct answer is purple. Here's an interesting fact. Mixing red and blue gives purple. What do we wear on our legs? Trousers. Gloves. Scarves. The correct answer is trousers. Here's an interesting fact. Trousers are worn on the legs as clothing. What does a snake use to smell? Tongue. Nose. Tail. The correct answer is tongue. Here's an interesting fact. Snakes use their tongues to sense smell in the air. What shines in the sky during the day? Sun, moon, star. The correct answer is sun. Here's an interesting fact. The sun gives us light and warmth during the day. What do we call the person who helps animals? Vet, teacher, waiter. The correct answer is vet. Here's an interesting fact. A vet or veterinarian helps take care of sick animals. What tool helps us see very far away things? Telescope, microscope, ruler. The correct answer is telescope. Here's an interesting fact. A telescope helps us see stars and planets in space. What is the name of the storybook girl with very long hair? Rapunzel, Cinderella, Goldilocks. The correct answer is Rapunzel. Here's an interesting fact. Rapunzel had very long hair and lived in a tower. What happens when you boil water? It turns to steam. It turns to ice. It becomes milk. The correct answer is, it turns to steam. Here's an interesting fact. Water turns into steam when it boils. What do we call a person who cooks food in a restaurant? Chef, doctor, dancer. The correct answer is chef. Here's an interesting fact. A chef is someone who prepares food professionally. What do people use to dig holes in the garden? Shovel, knife, toothbrush. The correct answer is shovel. Here's an interesting fact. A shovel is a tool used to dig dirt or soil. What do cows eat in the field? Grass, fish, fruit. The correct answer is grass. Here's an interesting fact. Cows are herbivores and eat lots of green grass. What do you call a baby duck? Duckling, kitten, puppy. The correct answer is duckling. Here's an interesting fact. A baby duck is called a duckling. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed the video and found it helpful. Stay tuned for more exciting content, and we'll catch you in the next one.